Hello, I'm Lauren Brantley Books, and I'm here today with a review of a book that's personally very dear to me. That is Dragonflight by McCaffrey. Dragonflight is the first book of the larger Dragonriders of Pern science fiction series. There are 24 novels in the series and several short stories, so it's quite the long series. Anne McCaffrey herself has unfortunately passed away in November of 2011 after a long and prolific career as a science fiction author. She was the first woman to win both the Hugo Award and the Nebula Award. I have read most of the Pern books, and I've recently gotten into the series again after being away from it for a few years. I likely will be reviewing other Pern books, not necessarily in order, just as I read them. The cool thing about the Pern books is that you can read them in publishing order or chronologically within the series timeline. For those who are looking to get into the series, the reading order I personally prefer is Dragonflight, Dragon Quest, the Harper Hall trilogy, and The White Dragon, which was one of the first science fiction books to be on the New York Times bestseller list. I read Dragonflight for the first time in high school and got really into the series in high school and college. After reading Dragonflight, again, I definitely have a lot of thoughts about the Pern series, so let me know if you'd like to hear about more books from this series. Before we begin, I'd like to give a trigger warning for domestic violence. I will be brief in mentioning it, but I just thought you should know ahead. Dragonflight was originally published in 3 novellas in 1968, and then later cobbled together under the Dragonflight name. The backstory of Dragonflight and the larger Dragonriders of Pern series is that it's set in a far future. A sect of humanity settles on a planet named Pern. There's a problem. Pern essentially has a parasitic planet called the Red Star. When the Red Star passes over Pern, as it does for 54-year intervals after 200 years of inactivity, a parasitic organism known as Thread falls to the planet's surface and eats all the organic matter in life. This devastates Pern, so the original colonizers genetically engineered fire-breathing dragons from the native fire lizards, a small dragon-like creature. These dragons are ridden into the thread falls, and the dragons burn the thread with its fire breath before they can reach the planet's surface. The dragons form a telepathic link with their riders at the dragon's birth, and the dragons are sapient creatures. Baby dragons choose their riders out of candidates that are presented on the hatching ground sands. There are 5 different colors of dragon in order from most common to least common. There are green, blue, brown, bronze, and gold dragons. Gold dragons are the highest ranked dragons and the only fertile female dragons. They make up less than 1% of all dragons. Greens are also female and make up about 50% of the population, but they are sterile. Gold dragons also are called queen dragons, only mate with bronze dragons. The biggest are the male dragons, and bronze dragons make up about 5% of the population. The lot of Dragonflight kicks off during the 9th pass of Pern. A pass is the 54-year time interval where Thread falls. After the pass, there is a 200-year period interval where Thread does not fall because the Red Star is not close enough in its orbit. In this case, it's been 400 years since the 8th pass of Pern. Due to the erratic nature of the Red Star's orbit, this caused a 400-year gap where no threads fell. The 9th pass is due to start very soon at the beginning of the novel, but the common folk of Pern no longer believe that thread is a threat. After 400 years with no thread, the Perny Society sees no longer fit to support the Dragon Weir. That's the name of the Dragon Riders place with ties. Traditionally, every hold, that is, the settlements of Pern, would supply the Weir with food and goods, but now less and less holds are tithing, and the Weir is becoming to be seen as unnecessary for Pern's survival. On Pern, there were originally 6 Weirs, but of those 6, 5 of them mysteriously disappeared 400 years ago. Now only Bendon Weir is left, and the last queen dragon, Nemorth, is on her deathbed after her rider, the Weir woman, died. Nemorth has laid a queen egg. Queen dragons can only impress female riders, so the Weir goes out on a search to find a suitable woman as candidates to impress, that is, bond with, the future queen dragon. One rider is a bronze rider named Flar, who comes to Ruratha Hold to find a candidate. As it turns out, 10 years ago, Ruratha Hold was invaded by a man named Vax, who killed the ruling family of Ruratha and took over. Only Lessa, the Lord Holder's daughter, escaped by hiding in a lair of what is essentially a Pernese guard dog, the Watchwear. For 10 years, she has been living as a drudge at Rout the Hold. After some mishaps which result in Flar killing Spax in a duel, Flar convinces Lessa to come to Bend Weir to potentially impress the new Queen Dragon. Lessa does impress the new queen, named Ramoth, and now Lessa is Weir Woman at Bend Weir. But the Weir's troubles are far from over. Now they have to prepare for the ninth pass of the Red Star with only 1/6 of the dragons they had 400 years ago. However, Lessa becomes curious as just to why these 5 Weirs disappeared, and resolves to herself to find them to give her a fighting chance against the Threads. I love this book. This book is 55 years old, and although it has its flaws, a lot of it still holds up in my opinion. The thing that stands out the most to me is the excellent world building. From the beginning, we are dropped right in the middle of a Perny society. I can tell that the author really thought a lot about every intricacy of how Perny society works. There's so much new terminology that some versions of the book come with a glossary. The world building is multi-layered and confident in itself. Everything from the food the characters are eating, the clothes they wear, their politics is all crafted lovingly. It really takes a good writer to make a world this convincing and nuanced. I also love the dragons. These dragons are sapient, but they lack in some areas like abstract thinking, planning ahead, so something which the writers help compensate for. It was fascinating to see how a society whose politics and culture was around dragons was. These dragons have a few unique abilities. One of the big ones is that dragons can teleport. This is called going between. Going between is dangerous. Going between is dangerous because if a dragon rider takes a dragon between without a destination, they will be stuck between and eventually die. Going between typically takes a few seconds, but as we later learn, the dragons can teleport through time as well as space. The longer back in time they teleport, the more draining it is on rider and dragon. These dragons get their fire breath from the rock they chew called firestone. When firestone is eaten, it reacts with their stomach acid to create a gas that ignites upon contact with the air. This is how dragons can sear thread out of the sky. This is also the first of now very popular idea of dragon riders having a telepathic link with their riders. These dragons were game changers for dragon lovers everywhere. The series was the origin of the now very popular trope of Dragon Rider. Every Dragon Rider book owes a debt to Anne McCaffrey and her Pyrenees dragons. They've got it all: the telepathy, fire breath, and time travel. I like our main character, Lessa. She's a fierce, independent, and strong-willed person, just the kind of werewoman Bend Weir needs. Her strong will often brings her at odds with the traditions of the Weir, especially before Flar becomes the Weir leader. You see, the Weir leader is always the rider of the bronze dragon who made it with the queen dragon. Nemorth was married to Rugol's dragon, so Rugol is Weir leader. He isn't a very good one, he'd only serve to further isolate the Weir from Pony society. Once Flar becomes the Weir leader, by having his dragon Menemeth mate with Ramoth, he brings some much needed change to the Weir. Speaking of mating flights, this is getting into one of the stranger and more contentious aspects of the book, and that is how dragons mate and how this affects the riders. When two dragons mate, their riders have sex. There's even a motto for this: the dragon decides, the rider complies. As you can guess, this is one of the more squicky aspects of the book. Thankfully, most of the sex takes place off the screen, and the mating flight itself, where the sex is actually pretty spectacular. During a mating flight, a queen dragon essentially tries to outfly all the bronze dragons, all of whom are trying to mate with the queen. And this is when the queen rider and bronze rider will have sex. This ties into one of the things that I think has not held up well: the romance between Flar and Lessa. In a way, Lessa starts out as a bit of a means to an end to Flar. She's the strong Weir woman Bendon needs, and by mating the dragons, Flar gains leadership of the Weir. It's not really a great foundation to begin a romantic relationship, using someone as a means to an end. To make matters worse, sometimes Flar is verbally and even physically abusive to her, often shaking her during moments of stress or anger. It's a toxic relationship at best, and I think it's the element of the book that has held up the worst. I will say that the romance does get a little better in future books, but by no means is it a believable, healthy relationship in Dragonflight. Overall, I love this book. It has been formative for me and was one of the books that sparked my love of dragons. If you can stomach the bad romance, I really think dragon lovers and science fictions would love this book. It's an oldie but a goodie. Thank you so much for listening to my review of Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey. I am Lauren Brantley Books. If you want to hear more reviews from me, Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on this video. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next review. Bye!